Okay, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. We'll just forego the Pledge of Allegiance and the prayer since this is just a workshop. And so I'll turn it over to John and Sonia, I guess.
All right. Well, if you're in the local government, budget and finance, this is an exciting time of year. If you can't sleep, it's also an exciting time of year to read and fall asleep. I enjoy this process. I just like to see it, how we start January, February, with the idea of how we're going to develop the budget, see how that plan comes to fruition, come June when we actually have the public hearing, you all consider adopting the budget for the next fiscal year, because obviously that's our biggest policy statement that you all make in a year is our plan to how we're going to expend the limited amount of revenues that we had to have to do what it is you want us to accomplish as your staff. This meeting is as we work through the process, there is no specific process. I use a formula that I've used for many years. Somebody else will do it differently, but the end result is the same. It works for me, and I hope it works for you all. This meeting in particular, it's I think our second meeting. Our first meeting back in February was very general. Sonia, we really spent most of our time just giving you an update where we are in the current year, so you have a picture of how we're going to, what we've accomplished this up to date, how we think we're going to finish the year as far as expenditures and revenues, and generally what we're thinking about the big picture of going into next year. We gave you some ideas of what we were thinking about, what the proposed budget might look like, and we were hoping to get back from you, some feedback on things you want us to focus on. And I think what came out of that is all of you was you want us to prioritize. Let us know what you'd like to see in your budget, but we want to see what department heads, what's most important to you. This meeting is a little different. Normally, after the process we've been using the last few years, at least, is that when we meet in January, February, and have that kickoff meeting, we don't get back together until we actually have a draft budget ready for you to review with that we've worked through with staff and prioritizing those requests and coming back to you. Normally way out of budget. I think Sonia reminded me last year, I think at this point we were about $3 million out of balance. So she told me we're doing actually really good to be, I think, about 1.3 million as of today. So that was encouraging, but it's still, we're a long ways off from being balanced. And that's where the hard work starts now, is to actually narrow our focus, identify our revenues that get more, as time goes, as we get closer to the end of the fiscal year, we'll know what our revenues are. Today they're a little bit, and Sonia will go into that a little bit later. You're 9 months into the fiscal year. You have a pretty good idea what your revenues are going to look like, but obviously, I'm very conservative. She's very conservative. We're not going to overestimate and give you a rosy picture, then come into June like, oh, sorry, we really missed that one. Sorry about that. We just don't do that, and you'll see that today. So what we're going to do is just, again, get a little bit more specific. We got some slide presentation. I think you have the slides in your packet. You have the spreadsheets that from each department as they have requested them. There's been no massaging of any of their requests. This is the raw data as they was presented. So you have a good picture of where we're starting from. Normally, I've worked through it, and a lot of this stuff I've made my recommendations for you even see it. But today it's going to be a little bit different. I think there's a good reason. This year's a little different with revaluation happening. It only happens in Onslow County every 4 years. By general statute, it has to happen at least once every 8 years. You can do it every year. I think Wake County does it every year. So Onslow does it. They choose to do it every 4. If your property values are skyrocketing, in the growth areas, particularly down in southeastern North Carolina on the coast, those values are going up fairly significant. I think we're going to see that when we look at what the new assessed valuation numbers are for next year. So, did you get a copy of the budget calendar? Oh, okay, that's all right. We got plenty of time. Like I said, we met once in February, but normally we don't get back with the board, sometime until April, May with a draft. And then in April, May, the board has their budget sessions to tie down those budget numbers and have your budget public hearing, the first meeting in June, I think is our plan, June the 9th, to have our public hearing. It has to sit for 10 days prior to the public hearing court general statute, so we'll get it to you no later than late May. Yeah, for 10 days. It has to sit for public inspection for 10 days. Then after the public hearing, you can adopt it on the public hearing or anytime after that, up to June 30th, to adopt the budget ordinance. All right.
John, may I ask a question real
Yeah.
quick? I mean, obviously, my first budget cycle, and to your point, this being a unique year with a budget cycle with the revow, I didn't see it in the slides. Like, is there a dedicated time? And I certainly don't want to derail the agenda, but to discuss the tax rate, what we think an appropriate tax rate is. Because, I mean, obviously, it's a historic revow. I mean, I got a resident here who reached out to me weeks ago who talked about their tax percentage, or their property value increasing by over 40%. I've had numerous other residents say the same thing. I'm sure say the same thing to you, about 40, 50% increases. We know on Wausau, Jones Onslow, Duke are going to have rate increases. We know inflation is what it is in this year going into next year. So I just don't want to miss that opportunity to have a good discussion amongst ourselves and what we feel that should look like. And obviously that drives so many things for revenue and what we can plan to expend.
The tax rate, based on your evaluation, drives everything. It's our single
Sure.
largest source of probably more than 50% of our revenue is that one single source. You've got on that second page of spreadsheet,
Yep.
you've got a whole long list of revenues, but they really don't add up to, other than that and local option sales tax, which you have no control over. The only really one you have any control over is the tax rate.
Absolutely.
And that's based on the new valuation. We got a couple slides on the valuation numbers. In the budget message, you're required to write a revenue neutral statement. So we'll put that in there. I think at our next, Sonia and I were talking at our next budget meeting, we'll create another slide to give you some scenarios that based on a typical house valuation or valuations based on whatever, we can go any number and see what the effect is of the rate today at an old value versus a new value at 35 cents is what we are today, or down to the revenue neutral number of 26 cents. But where's the tax rate going to be? Somewhere in between. We won't know until, that's what we're doing. Actually, that's part of the whole process is as you're working through.
Perfect. I just didn't see like a dedicated something on the slide that said that discussion. So that's all.
You won't know that yet until we work further down and
That's fine.
Get into the weeds of what our expenditures are going to be. Then that tweak of that tax rate to balance revenues and expenditures. So yes, to your point, it's critical, but we're still at 50,000 feet here, and we'll start coming in for landing the next few weeks is to tighten things up.
So
Thanks.
to his point, it depends on how much we decide we can fund each department would
Sure.
help determine what tax rate we use. So 26 would be revenue neutral, but it's 35 now. Would it be 30? Would it be 32? Would it stay the same or whatever? If you don't want to cut services and
Sure,
fund
you
them.
don't want to cut services, but then you've got it, you'll see in here, you've got capital reserve requests, you've got capital expenditure requests, you got personnel, then there's other things we have, debt service is going to be a huge one, Sonia's going to talk about that a little later. And in the future, with some additional debt service you need to be concerned about, just not for next year, but in some future years. Then there's things we have no control over, like our property liability, your workers' comp insurance, health insurance.
That's all
Absolutely.
going up.
Retirement rate contributions are all
Yeah, I
expenses that we
noticed
have
it's all went
that we
up.
have no control over that are going, everything's going up. All right, I'm going to start, I'll just go through the slides. Then we'll, if any questions, stop me anytime you have any questions. And Sonia will pick it up. She'll go into the details of the spreadsheets, kind of focusing on where she thinks we're going to end the fiscal year. Maybe some things, there's some drivers that are specific to some of the, she won't go over all of them, but the big items, I'll hit them in the slides, but then you'll see them again in the line item detail of some of the specific expenditure requests from the department heads. And of course, they're all here. If you got any questions for them, I know they'd be glad to go into more detail. Ryan and Kyle are very excited. They've got this down pat, so just ask them any questions you got. All right. Big one. All right. Again, this is just our preliminary look at the fiscal year 26, 27. Again, this is before any adjustments. You see the note there. This is just the raw data as the requests were made and where we think revenues will be, and you'll see this it's not quite in balance. All right. All right. That is, yeah, first slide. Revenues, as we see it today, $6,714,522, and that would be based on a revenue neutral number, 26 cents, like I said earlier. That's your revenue neutral, based on the new valuation that we have, and I'll get to that, what that is in just a minute.
So that's the revenue neutral
So
revenue figure.
If it's 35 today, we didn't want to show you 35 in the new value because it would be significantly higher. This is if you just left it alone, raise the same amount of revenue basically, but lower the rate 9 cents to 26. You would raise it with the new value, assessed valuation, you would raise $6,714,000. The numbers as requested by department heads for expenditures is $8,097,000. So for a deficit of $1.38 to $1,382,000, we're out of balance. That's not without appropriating fund balance. That's just revenues and expenditures. So what does 1 penny on the tax rate mean with the new valuation? If you remember, current year or last year, we had some slides up there. What did 1 penny equal? It was about 71,000 was 1 cent. At our tax collection rate, the 1 cent, our tax collection rate, you see there, 98.57%. Now 1 penny is about $99,516. Yeah, from 70,000 to 100,000. Yep. 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 Yep, you're going to see that in just a minute. You see the bullet point there in red, revenue neutral rate, that's what it is, 26.15 cents per $100 valuation.
So our collection rate's 98.5%?
Yes. Based on your audit last year, that's
year.
the only number, that's what, you can't
But
go any
that's a
higher
pretty
than
good
your tax
collection
rate the next year.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, it's a great tax, the county does it for us. They do a great job at collecting our taxes. And as I mentioned earlier, that's what, at 26 cents, the revenue neutral rate, you'd raise $2.6 million. But if you left it at 35 cents per $100 at the same tax collection rate, again, 1 penny is going to be 1 penny. Doesn't matter what your rate is. The valuation stays the same, so 1 penny is still $99,000. But you'd raise $3,483,000, or right about at $900,000 more. So that's the difference between revenue neutral and 35 cents is about $900,000. How do I go back? Bottom one. You see 2.6. She's got to be specific. What'd you say, 880? $880,000. 880, I said 900. I overestimated. It's 20,000, I'm sorry. So you see the difference there, $3,483,000 is about $880,000 difference between tax rate, revenue neutral, and using the current tax rate. That makes sense? All right. And Doug, you brought up just a minute ago, there are a lot of things that are driving the costs up that we have no control over. Here are some of them, and we have them listed there. What's significantly, what's in the budget that's making a significant influence on it? If we include a COLA of 2.7, COLA and a merit total 2.7%, obviously that is based on your salaries. That's going to be a significant contributor to the increase. The state retirement system, Orbit, is increasing the employer contribution rate 0.75 of a point. The league, North Carolina League of Municipalities, is where we get our property and liability and property and casualty insurance from, proposing a 10% rate increase. Blue Cross Blue Shield, we got an introductory rate last year. We knew this was coming. We've plugged in a 20% before the credit.
So they told you to increase it 20% before what the credit was. So that's, the credit was $66,000.
So you take the actual rate and times 20%, not, yeah.
Right. So I got to go back to that rate and then add
Yeah.
20%.
Next year.
Next year.
I got a
This coming
slide.
year.
There's a little. Yeah, and I got a slide. There'll be a slide in just a minute on that.
Well, a lot of that's playground equipment too, isn't it? Like 100,000. Well, we're kind of getting ahead of the game there.
That is correct. No, that it is, but the building maintenance and all that is still, we're still working through that because we're not, obviously we've not had a director, so we're trying to go through and they're doing a great job, but we still have things that we need to make sure, like all our HVACs, which they did go through, we need to really come up with a good capital improvement for that. It's just, that's going to be time consuming because obviously. Set aside for future capital outlay.
Just, you'll see these things throughout the individual department budgets, but these are kind of the highlights that just make you aware that we have $100,000 in the draft budget for land use plan update.
Can I ask a question? Would that cover it pretty much, or do you think it would be more than that?
Rebecca?
Or just say once you get into it?
Yeah, I remember Withers and Ravenel maybe.
'Cause last year we
A little
did-
bit higher.
We did 50,000, and we knew that wasn't going to be.
That would be for just an update, not a rewrite. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you think that would be an adequate land use plan? I would assume we wouldn't proceed with it.
Okay.
Well, with that land use plan, we just went to a meeting where they said it's not a good idea to do that. Why would it even be?
That was one of our board meetings where we were talking about what the counties may get with the ETJ. The state taking the ETJ and giving it, that's what you're talking about?
That's correct, yeah. That it would be a bad time doing that because if they,
And that's at least a year out, probably.
that's correct.
If that was to even happen, we don't even know if that'll happen, though, do we? For sure.
For sure, we do not.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the,
Yeah.
they might be using one out-of-date map, which we can, of course, update and give them to them as a handout, right? The current map. But
Now,
I
are we
think the
getting ahead
current
of
plan's got some life to it. And to your point, we brought it up. And, you know, if the state's going to change how we don't control our ETJ, why would we waste that money and update the land use plan now? Why not wait until see what the state does? Then have to turn around and do another update a year or two from now. Doesn't seem to make any sense.
Of course, this is just high level, like you said, this is preliminary, so.
Yeah, and then once we go through and we find this information, and we've provided that information, then we can take it out.
No, I mean, but we were discussing some of the items, so I thought it was appropriate that Tim brought it up.
I just need to ask a question. Transparency. So what you're telling me is that there's no use to update a land use plan. And all of a sudden, it's no longer considered,
Relevant.
common practice. That makes no. Because call it what it is. Least makes up. If you keep the politics, different politics. The things that we need to do now, that we're, let's do much politics.
But we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit, I think. We're putting the cart before, so let's pull it back in and get back to the numbers and,
Doug, I think that was the point. We're trying to be fiscally responsible
yeah.
by not spending money on property that we're no longer going to be overseeing.
But that'll be a topic of discussion further into the budget. So we're getting way ahead of ourselves, I think. Yeah. Okay. Yep. Yep.
All right, just to finish up that slide, just to give you some, the high points.
John, troublemaker.
Yeah, that's
Go, John. You put the bullet on the slide.
hey, whenever you have a question, let's stop and talk about it.
But
Wait, I have
let's
one.
stay on track, because I think we're
The
getting
Blue
way off.
Cross Blue Shield, the
We're-
Blue Cross Blue Shield, are we happy with that? And are we on the right plan?
We're still working on the prescription side of things, which I have addressed it and we're working on it. And this is pretty much where this is coming from, trying to get either maybe a better plan with them, but there's also other things that we can do, like, with HSA. There's a lot of different things we can do to make it work, but overall, the only thing that I have heard from the employees are the prescriptions. It's just, some are just higher because obviously what used to be the tier with Aetna is a little higher now with Blue Cross Blue Shield. And we don't know that when we go into this. So, but I've reached out to the Lehman Group and we're working really hard to do this. So that's one of the reasons why it's going up too.
Okay.
But I'll let y'all know once we find, that's not gonna, the renewal rate won't come out until April, somewhere around in April. So we just got an email. So once we get that renewal, it will come back and I'll let you guys know whether we need to add or, but I don't know what that is. That's just what they told me to.
All right. Also, in the budget, there are several new personnel requests. We'll get to specifically what they are in just a second, but $437,704 impact increase to the budget. Capital improvement plan, $254,500 in capital outlay. There are $684,500 of requests using loan proceeds, grants, and capital reserve funds to meet those requests. I did want to go back, I forgot to make, just on the text, on the rate, on the valuation, doesn't matter which one it is. I just wanted to throw out a raw, I know Kevin Turner with the counties coming in a couple of weeks to your board meeting to give you a lot more detail on, to explain how it works and what it is. But the new valuation in Swansboro just topped $1 billion. It's $9,600,000. So you call it 1 billion. Our current valuation is about 750. So it's gone up about 25%, from about 750 million to 1 billion. So pretty significant increase in values in the last 4 years. All right, and again, I made a comment about the new personnel request, the $437,000. There are 3 different requests for 6 different positions. One is a rec coordinator, 68,000. 3 firefighters, $218,000 increase in salaries and benefits, and two police officers at $151,000 for a total of 437. Capital improvement plan to set aside. This would be money that we put into capital reserve for future capital expenditures. Just a reminder, we haven't done this in the last 2 fiscal years. I would strongly encourage you all to consider starting that annual funding again. It does make a difference over time, is to keep, as you know, these are pretty significant expenditures on equipment, and to help us be prepared as these things wear out, that we don't have to always take on new debt to fund these things, that we have capital reserve set aside to at least help us in the acquisition. In the fire department, there's a request for $125,000 for equipment and apparatus. Police department set aside $23,000 for future police vehicles. In public works, $32,500. I think that obviously wouldn't cover all the costs for these particular items, but you see in the public works that, you know, that they have a need for several new, they have some 2013, 2014 service trucks, pickup trucks that are about on their last leg, and I think we've got one in the budget for next year, but we need to think about different additional trailers. The big excavator is extremely old. It's beyond its useful life. The trailer, the big red dump truck, I think it's got 500-some-thousand miles on it.
I keep hearing about this big red dump truck. I want to go see this thing.
There are just a lot of needs out there that not just for next year, but we need to be thinking about in future years.
Hey, John, quick question, and I apologize, I was writing something down when you first opened about this slide. Did you say we did or did not use a SIP the last 2 fiscal years? Did
We have
not?
not funded
Okay.
the reserve
Got it.
program for the last 2 fiscal years. Maybe
Thank you.
Maybe more, but I know it's 2 since I've been here. I know we haven't. Are we in the 3rd year we haven't? And Parks and Rec, $74,000.
And that was probably because we put you all guys on such a tight budget? Is that
I
something
would
to
agree
do with it?
that. Yep. We were looking to, not to have to increase taxes, just to keep it where it was, and, we had to make some
Cuts
difficult
where we
decisions,
made
and
cuts.
That was one place to do it. Any questions there? Property,
Well, you have to do that for your,
oh, I'm sorry.
We've had some opportunities come up, and we've presented them to the board before. Like, for instance, I think the property that was adjacent to us was brought, Chris Seberg had brought it to the board and it was denied. the property, the One Harbor Church was brought to the board years ago. Just stuff, so instances like that, we've put money aside for that. No, it's just, that stuff, it's
Set aside for.
just set aside, yeah. It's part of our master plan that we're supposed to acquire so many acres of parkland. And it helps with the grants and so forth, yeah.
So,
But
one thing too, the waterfront implementation, is that just like boardwalk or? things
yeah,
of that
like,
nature?
that's part of like, yes, part of the whole boardwalk from, yeah, what you want to do all the way
Do
around, adjoining,
bicentennial park.
yes. That would be part of the waterfront implementation plan, yes.
And you're just setting that aside every year just so we have that?
Mm-hmm.
It's not that we're spending it.
Yeah, and even part of it would be like Riverwalk Park. So like that boardwalk, like if it ever needs replacement, that would be part of it as well. So anything or any work that needs to be done to it, that could be used for it as well. Yep.
All right. And capital outlay requests, which is actual acquisition of equipment, $684,500. Police department, $163,000. 2 vehicles, finger live scan, drone replacement, radio replacement. If you got any questions specifically, what a finger live scan is, or what kind of radio, why we have to have certain radios and replace them, Dwayne can answer that. Fire chief, everybody can. I'll let them chime in. Fire department, $333,000. Brush truck, boat equipment for new engine and training. Fire department boat launch. We can talk about that idea as well. That came up the other night about where we could put a boat launch. I think Jacob and Justin have got an idea of how that could happen. You know, you see that in the downtown facilities, $44,000. 50% of the boat launches included in the downtown facilities budget. A new Christmas tree. I think Justin's requesting to replace the big tree down at the Pug. They're expensive. I think it's $15,000 for one of those new big trees. Is that true? Is that what it is, Anna? 30.
Oh, they get
Alright.
expensive,
What
but I
would you
think
do
the one
with
that
the old one?
Justin, he's
Huh?
going to
What would you do
TVA
with the
ask
old
for
one?
that
Just
fund,
take it to the
right?
dump? Or put it at
Or
Parks
you
and
could-
Rec? Put it in Dwayne's yard.
Hey, John, a question, obviously,
No, I think you-
perfect day, we'd like to write a big check and say everything's good. But how this is depicted on there, is that, for example, for the police, understanding what priority is from 1 to 10, is how this is listed, is that,
It's not listed in a 1 to 10 priority. This is just a lump. This is what their requests were. Now we need to.
but it will?
We need to go back and say prioritize and say what do we really need this year and what can we put in the CIP for future years. Parks and Rec, $102,000, municipal tot lot, and a new vehicle. Right now the one vehicle they had is, we'll call it inoperable, not safe to drive. So they do not have other than the van, I guess. We don't have a vehicle. So I think we've got
Did
one.
the blue thing finally?
The old blue one, yep.
Poor Anna.
And emergency management, $42,500. And we've talked about snow removal equipment. Is that a priority or is that just a want? We can talk about that. And new message boards.
Hey, John, real quick, is there a reason the proposed fire department boat launch is broken out 50%, 50% in 2 different areas?
Justin brought it forward to us. It's actually a kayak launch mainly, but it has the ability to put a Carolina skiff or a boat drive up. So it's a floating dock that he wants to put at By Park. And we would be able to permanently leave the boat down there. So taking some of the real estate from the kayak launch, we offered to split 50-50 split on that so that we can
Would
get it
that be at
permanent.
Bicentennial Park? Is that
Yeah,
Because I was wondering if we could put a lift at Town Dock, Church Street Dock.
Church
That
Street
would
or
violate-
Main Street?
But it's
Not
a
Church
dock.
Street, I mean,
Yeah.
our main dock down by Saltwater.
Yeah, not there, and.
Yeah, that's why I was wondering, yeah.
And then the Main Street dock, we don't
Yeah.
have enough space.
Yeah.
And then,
But-
he needed some more or updated kayak launches. And this is a relatively, inexpensive way to get a boat lift, or permanent area for a boat to stay.
How are you gonna access, drive the trucks over there? The tiniest parking lot.
Yeah, so we would drive a truck there and then just walk onto that floating dock to get to it. So it would be like the center portion of it is a walkway. I really wish he was here. He could explain or show you a picture of it.
We'll have pictures at our next meeting.
Our fire trucks, when we do go down there, will either stage in the turn lane or take a smaller vehicle just to pull into a parking space. Most of the time, you can pull down to the water and not block space.
That would be the least expensive way to do it.
Right
That's a
now.
good idea.
Mhm. And then, another alternative is typically we'll drop people off to get the boat, and the other personnel will go be a spotter, whether it's on the bridge or Front Street, depending on where the water rescue's at. That answer your question?
Yes, I'm sorry,
Okay.
yes. You were looking at Tamara.
Good. Any other questions about any of those items? Anything on, that's not on there that you thought we may have missed? Glad to hear that. Okay. All right. I was remiss at the beginning. I should have complimented department heads on, you see all this material that's been put together. This is all their input. I think they did a great job of making their requests, and letting us know that, what their needs are. Of course, it's hard not to fund it all, but that's part of what we do here. But I think they did a great job of putting their budget requests together. You see all their spreadsheets. Of course, Sonia, she's the one that puts it all together and makes it look good. All this, she's just done a wonderful job of preparing the presentation and make it really easy to understand, hopefully.
Well, I think they also did a great job this past year along with you guys in implementing a tight budget that we allocated. So probably off
And
the
it's
track
not,
a little bit.
it's not getting any easier. Everything, look at, and we're probably gonna need to go back and things like gasoline. We
Yeah.
didn't budget $4 gasoline. So we're probably gonna need to go back and look at particularly, police, all of them that used, and diesel. Who would have predicted $5?
So I'm
Yeah,
getting off
diesel.
track a little bit. Would fuel farm benefit us in that aspect? If we bought gas at a bulk at a cheaper price, we would, but I'm getting off track, so I'll wait until we get the.
But in the meantime,
Yeah.
we need to prepare for, it may be extended time that prices are elevated. Anything, tires and oil, it's very expensive to maintain the vehicles that we have. Anyhow, I'm gonna turn it over to Sonia, and she'll get a little more specific on things as far as debt service and fund balance. You can't have it.
All right, here comes the fun stuff. All right, so here is your fund balance. Really, your fund balance as of 24, 25. I can't make any changes here yet because we don't know, are we going to assign fund balance? We're going to try not to do that. That's the goal. I have some things in my head. If everything goes away, we hope it goes. We may not have to. But anyway, right now, currently, with all the, what you appropriated last year and what we've gone through so far, you're at 50% of fund balance, which is right where we need to be, in hopes that nothing major happens. But let's keep in mind that we do have that $250,000 for the Project Coffee that's probably not going to happen. So that's going to go back. So that's going to help us. So that's why I can't really change this right now, because I don't know. But as we get into the budget more, I should probably give you a good number, probably by May, hopefully. But right now, we're right at 50%. I think we're at a good place. No worries about that. And then this is just the graph of where we were 24, 25. All right. So here is our stormwater enterprise fund. I'm going to project the same amount as we did this year. Unless, of course, once I get into it and, we get into pulling the data and all that, it will definitely, it either go up, it shouldn't go down. So we should be safe right here. And I just want to make a reminder that the lump sum for total annual fee paid, remember we used to get that credit if you paid it by September 30th? It's gone. And we're still getting people that thinks we're still doing that. But we do have that watershed credit that you would get. So that's still in place, but that is gone. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone knew that, which helped a little bit. It was like I want to say estimated about $16,000 more, obviously, but. All right, so here is our wonderful solid waste enterprise fund. I know we have the new commissioners that, I'm not sure if you were aware, but back last year, when we were going through the budget process, the director submitted his request, and it didn't justify, even with the CPI increase, I couldn't justify increasing the rate. But I did say that it might come one of these days. It might. Well, this year, and I'm hoping that I'm going to project it coming over $10,000, but it's just going to depend on Sunoco, because of course, that's the recycling. That changes all the time. So anyway, I'm projecting it to come over, and you can see it in your spreadsheets. I think it's around $10,000 over budget, but it may not. But I'm keeping a look on that, and I'll let you know when it gets closer. We may have to do a budget amendment for that. So obviously, John and I worked on the solid waste budget, and this is with a CPI increase of 1.9%. 1.9%. We're going to have to change the rate. Now, the last increase was back in fiscal year 18-19, and even with the CPI, we never had to increase it. And it's really hard to there's really nowhere to reduce anything, because most of it is your recycling services and your, waste, or GFL. I can't do that. So, and then we have one individual in that salary, or one individual salary, and then we have a 10% of the director's salary in here. So I told John that I think we need to increase it, and the increase for the residential, I'm proposing, he's going to most likely propose $2.15 more in the residential, and then the commercial is going to be $3.59 each month. $2.15 for residential, and then $3.59 for commercial per cart. And again, the last increase was back in fiscal year 18-19, so we've gone a long time without an increase.
This is an enterprise fund, so it needs to be supported with.
Right.
You don't want to transfer any general fund revenues into your enterprise fund. You don't do that.
You can't.
So the rate needs to cover the costs, and like she said, everything, that department basically is just a contract with.
Have they raised their prices lately, GFL, with the gas prices?
Yeah,
Piggybacking on what John was talking about with gas.
They haven't gotten a,
Well, not a Pacific.
Just from the gas, but every year that in the contract we have, they have.
It goes up, I would, 18, 19.
There's been a CPI from GFL every year, we just haven't passed it on.
Right.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
we increased it in the budget, but there was no justification to have to increase the rate. So,
Right.
but now, this year,
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I don't know, I don't know.
can't do it but for so long. That's 7, 8 years now.
And then the other important part is the LGC, if it's not self-sufficient, then the LGC is going to look at us and be like, well, why, why did it go in the hole, pretty much? Why is there a deficit? And then they can say, well, it can hurt your performance indicator, obviously, if we don't, because then they're going to be like, well, why are you not increasing your fees? So that can come too. So that's that. But I will, one of the questions that Commissioner Herbert always asks me at every meeting is, does anything keep you up at night? Well, this is coming close, but not yet, because I think we're going to be okay, but I want to alert you that it may not. But it's minimal, it's 10,000. It's not 50, 60, but 10,000 is 10,000, it's still a lot.
And that's due to increased costs that GFL's charging us.
Yeah, it's
We have
out of
no
our
control over that.
I don't have control, and that's why I stated in the budget meetings last year. You remember that?
Yep.
But I don't know.
Well, it's like you go to the grocery store, you pay more because they're paying more.
Right. Right.
Kind of the same principle.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, I would think waiting, having been able to cover it for that long a period of time is commendable on the town's part. To be honest.
absolutely. And last year, the increase was 3.4%. So that's why I was sort of, am I missing something? Is there something but, I mean, it is what it is, so, anyway. All right, so then here's your current debt. And we do have a few coming off this next year. So you have your fire truck, your sleeping quarters, and the vehicle, police, and fire department and software is coming off this year. But let's be mindful that we're getting ready to add the ladder truck and the engine. I don't know exactly what the rate will be when it comes that time, but I sort of did an estimate. And I'm going to assume that the debt service on this fire truck is probably going to be, I'm doing the 3.5 million, I don't want you to stress. Okay. On the 3.5 million, it's about 300,000 plus. It could be more. I don't know. It's anywhere between 3 and 5%. Could be more by that time. I don't know. But, so you're looking at an annual debt service of almost $300,000. We're reducing it next year by 100, so there's still that 200 plus that will be added to our debt service.
Is there anything else, or is it just the
Well, no. So then we have whatever
Yeah.
is approved here,
right, right.
could be more. So I just don't know what that is yet, but I just wanted you to be aware that 200,000 plus is going to be added even without that.
So again, I may be jumping ahead a little bit, but with that 250,000 that we had set aside for Project Coffee, that's coming back to our budget. Can it be used for that?
It's just going to go back in
Or
your
was
fund
that going to
balance, and
be,
you can
or was that going to
appropriate
be
it.
designated for sidewalks? Or,
You
okay,
do
just
whatever-
go back to the fund balance and put it wherever.
Yep. All right. Any questions on that? Anything that John? So now what we're going to do, are the slides not in here?
You want to take a break?
Are these not in here?
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, that's coming. None of that.
debt, they are debt.
Yeah, that's where that extra 200.
That's not,
We are.
okay, okay.
That extra 200 after the 100 comes back that we're saving.
We're definitely,
you've got-
all the capital outlay. And this next go-round, it'll be more detailed, what's gonna be a grant, what's gonna be debt service, what's gonna be, I'll let you know that once we figure out what's gonna be in there. I didn't wanna,
Last question.
This-
Oh, Grant.
All right, so we're going
Yeah,
to take a
that's what I'm
5 minute, is that what you want to do? I mean, is that what you're saying? I guess if you want to, I'm fine. Yep, 5 minute break. Yeah.
Good. I mean, consider too, that you just spitballing like you and I were already thinking ahead to these.
I'm gonna go, no, 'cause
No, I didn't get one that long. Oh, she's fine.
Again, I'm just looking at.
Will we
Think like I did.
get the latest? And I'm going to jump in one place. But I don't, I've heard this. I don't.
I'm giving out. People watching.
I know.
So anyway, that's all.
I think it's just
It's
personality.
and it's frustration.
The frustration, and, I mean, it's always very dramatic.
Yep, it is.
It is, but I think that's just her and her passion.
And that's good. I'd rather have some. But don't.
no, that's not that, it's because it's,
And she is like,
And
she has,
yeah.
I told her, I don't know it all.
You had to go.
What I can tell you, I had a, I was like, what I can,
I can't put.
is that there's, yeah.
This
I was
is,
like,
this is
let
pertains
me,
to this.
what are right?
Now, is,
Some of it is always, yeah, judge,
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean,
we're not,
well, I'm gonna try to bring the terms down.
No.
who's made a repair, we're not,
That's what I'm gonna propose.
because just say that. It is what it is. Well, her biggest thing
That's what I'm gonna propose.
will be the biggest violation.
That's what I'm gonna propose,
of
like 4 projects in one. Yeah. I'm just freaking out. What is she?
I
Yeah, I
I
know.
told her the same thing. Like,
Well, and I was like,
you know, say, Raz,
I mean,
come here.
um,
So, we can only do so much. So much of this is just a suggestion. I mean, there's so much that we can. I think we can send that bill over and they don't, we're not gonna send Wayne in there to arrest anybody because you got the wrong color. We can put signs in their yards, shame them.
In violation, house in violation.
Habitual violator,
Kind of aggravates me.
passionate.
I know, and that's great. That's fun. She's getting more.
And that is, you need to be blunt and say, you know what? We're all on the same page.
I called this lady, Deb By, she gave me the other day, she gave me this guy's number. Find that.
Ask John,
don't be,
ask John when they're supposed to sit down and talk to Carla.
Hey,
Because did you get that part where she that, you know, one of y'all needs to be at this meeting?
yeah, but I can't be there tomorrow. Well, no, that's not tomorrow, that's something else. So, this lady texted me 16, and she Jamie, I already had Jack's number. He's the guy that lived in Jack.
Yeah.
Then Jenny Cole's the caretaker, it's Jack's girlfriend.
Yeah, I knew the
That
last.
took him up to the mountain, but she was like a CNA. Then that's the guy that owns the house with Jack. He's a retired bank, Jack, he lives around Burlington. Where Jack's from, he's an old house buddy. So I called Pat the other day, and I said, Pat, like, I have no authority whatsoever what to do, and I'm not acting on behalf of, but I consider Jack, yeah, and I'm sure y'all are about, don't do something, you'll lose the house, one way or another.
So what did they go?
Sharon.
They what?
They're actually doing.
Winning.
Huh?
That's a win.
I know. They're closing it off so the squirrels can't get in there. He's getting all the squirrels out. They did a little bit of minimal foundation work, not this guy, but somebody else did minimal foundation work to stabilize the house a couple of months ago. So when I called Pat.
Are they doing this without permit?
No, they got permits too. It's all being done right, Tamara. Imagine that. So when I called Pat, he called this guy that's working on the house. You know where the house on the corner, there's a house like mine on the end of my street, and across the street from it is another house. This guy was doing work there. And so Pat called that guy and had him. I went down there and trimmed the bushes the other day, so it looks better.
Or, with your paint color?
Downtown.
No. No.
It's like a hornet's nest.
That's the worst HOA ever.
Planning about $100,000.
Say it when you, I'd rather, me too, I'd rather you say something than not. So, no, I would be probably the same way. A lot of information.
I see that. He's man. Got his computer up. He's ready. It made him feel important.
Anyway,
And other people like bagels too. No coffee, no bagels. Yeah, she said morning. She just called. I just emailed.
That girl from Jacksonville's getting ready to go to the moon today.
I'm thinking,
What?
I just think it's gonna be,
Invite any of them that want to.
it doesn't affect
They all.
how it's budgeted.
She specified,
Like saying I should stop saying.
My mic.
He's coming, but they all need to be aware.
You need these
Right.
in a.
Right, right, right.
Uh, It's fine. It'll be,
I would-
okay. Maybe. All right, so I guess we're ready to resume.
Okay, so you have the spreadsheets, we're gonna go through each sheet, and I'm just gonna highlight what's changed, what's increased, what's what, really a simple, I hope I
A lot
don't,
of those capital projects, capital equipment, things you saw, personnel that we highlight on the slides, that's kind of what you're pointing out is where they're kind of located in each specific department spreadsheet. So at this point, it's kind of hard, particularly when she talks about year-end projections, revenues and expenditures, like she said. We'll get a better focus as we get towards the end of the year, so obviously we're going to be very conservative, just keep that in mind. And these are really unfiltered requests. This is, I tried to make it very clear that we haven't done any hard decision-making. You're just seeing the full gamut of all requests in one big lump sum. But you understand that next time we get together, we'll have to go through the department and prioritize their requests so we can get things closer to balance, what were we at, 1.3 million, closer, maybe some of these will get close to having a balanced budget.
Can I ask a quick question, Lee? Would it be easier or better to let you go ahead and go through the whole, each department go through their whole presentation and then ask questions at the
Yes.
end instead of interjecting as we go along?
well, it's up to you, however works. for
Whatever
you.
works best for you guys, where you can get your point
I
across
think
the best.
if you have something on your mind, it's probably better just go ahead and get it
Okay, so,
right there and then.
okay, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay, so you're going to look on your hard copy. So the very first page is a summary of your expenditures and obviously your projected for this fiscal year and what's been requested. And as you can see, let's start with the projected. The projected, I'm projecting for us to have a deficit of $315,000. What does that mean? Okay, so you've already appropriated $773,000, for this current budget. And then total, after all adjustments up to this date, we have allocated $862,814 of fund balance. So this means that if this is a true number, then $547,000 is going to go back to fund balance, which is a good thing. So we've appropriated $862,814 up to this day, and if my projection is correct, then $547,781 is going back to fund balance.
Which is what's left of the 800.
Okay?
She thinks she's going to spend about
315, yeah.
I'm just saying that's just a projection. It could change, something can come up, and it be different. So, but this is just as of today. So then we have your fiscal year 26-27 department request. And as you can see, the department requests total $8,097,464. And we are the very first budget, the draft is, we're in a deficit of $1,382,942. Okay, keep in mind, again, I have the revenue neutral number in there, which is the $2.6 million for revenue, or for ad valorem. So this can change depending on what y'all want to do. Okay? All right, the second page is your total revenues. at one, then that's highlighted in yellow. I'm projecting $5.9 million coming in, but again, that's very conservative. Because I don't want to have to come back to y'all and say, uh-oh, we missed, just like John said. I've never done it, never want to do it, and it's not going to happen. So this probably will change. Yeah. Yeah. So the revenues probably will change to the good, okay? Okay, so then we have your revenues for the next fiscal year, 26, 27. I'm projecting $6,714,522. Again, very conservative, and that is with the revenue neutral number. So
So that's for
whatever
20
you all decide, if you want to do the 26.15, that's what that number is. If you want to go halfway, that halfway will increase it by $482,000. Okay? And then if you do the 35%, it's going to increase it by $880,000. And then also, I want to mention that in the fire rescue, I guess the Onslow County meetings, they've proposed, instead of a 3%, a 3 cent set aside, right? They're going to, the fire tax, is that what it's called? Instead of a 3 cent, they're going to do a 5 cent. So there's more there, but we don't know what that is yet. So I didn't want to put it in there. So I'm just taking what we received this year to be conservative. And then if and when that happens, that could increase it by 200 plus. So we just don't know, and I don't want to put it in there and then have to come back and say, ooh, right? So just keep that in your mind too.
Budget projection for next year based on what we moved.
This, yeah. Yep. And as you can see, if you look under your loan proceeds, that's part of your capital outlay, this $624,500. And then we have the municipal tot lot under your grants there. So if that's what we don't know yet which way we're going, but right now that's where it's plugged in at. Okay? All right, so then we go into the next, which should be your non-departmental. No, I'm not, because we'll worry about that one the next time. Okay, so 400, non-departmental is Department 400. So in your projected, what we're going to project as of 6/30/2026, we're projecting $574,543. Yeah, the property liability, that came over a little over. And as you can see, your workers' comp came a little under. That's due to vacancies. Obviously, we had some vacancies this year. So that's what we do is I have to, once a year, I have to submit a self-audit. Pretty much, I got to go through all the salaries, all that stuff, and we are required to keep 1% of our salaries in the state unemployment, because we're reimbursable. So we don't have to pay anything quarterly, but we are required to keep at least 1% of our total salary. So what happened was, it's always that last year, the prior year. So because we had vacancies the prior year, we reimbursed this line. So that's why you see I did budget 49,000, but we got a credit back because of our vacancies. So you'll see that fluctuate. But I increased it from 49 to 53 because we have the new personnel. Now, once we get further into that, if we don't fund that, then that will change. It's just okay? And then just a reminder that we did transition to the Onslow County for IT services. So if you see that 110 was projected this year, and I've requested $87,800. The agreement with the county is $25,000. Then we have, obviously, Microsoft Office. We have some things like that, that we have to get licenses for. But I also included, because we have some computers that need to be replaced. The last time we replaced them was back in COVID. I'm sure Commissioner Eckendorf, you were here when we went through that. So anyway, so we have some laptops, we have some desktops that need to be replaced, in desperate need of replacement because they're so old. So I've went ahead and kept I think it was like 30,000 we have left over after the whole transition. So we're going to purchase some this year because that's what was in the budget. And then we need to purchase some more this next coming. So hopefully we can get most of them replaced. It may be more, I don't know yet, but I'm hoping that it's not. So that's the only difference in that department. Okay, then when you go to governing body, which is the next, obviously the big change is the project coffee. You see that, the 200, the line item contributions to agencies. That 250,000 is sitting in that line. And as you can see, I'm not projecting it. I'm only going to project what the other ones that we were approved. That's the only really difference in that department between the projected and the department requests. Other than we have more travel, you are taking, in the past, as you can see, the history here for travel and training, we had some commissioners that went and, some didn't, but y'all are taking advantage of it, so we're adding some to your budget so you could take advantage of that. We want you to. Okay, the next department is admin services. And the other thing I want you to be mindful of is when you look at, if you're comparing like your health insurance, your insurance group, there may be differences in there because either A, there's been vacancies, there could be employees that took it, that participated in it and left, and then the new one came in as I mean, there's a lot of things going on when you try to compare that. And then they also remember that when you're comparing the health group is that $66,000, that's that credit. It's not going to make sense here, but it will make sense once we get through that. It's hard to explain. Anyway, so just remember that. It could be, in the beginning of the year was budgeted because this individual was here, and then the individual has left, and maybe the new individual isn't participating in it. It could, those differences.
Just a lot of moving parts.
It really is.
Coming and
It
going.
really is.
As staffing levels change, that would affect your salary
Everything.
and your
Yeah.
insurance, everything.
Yeah, everything. So here, so I projected, as you can see, $441,843. So we're going to, admin services is going to be right there, right at budget. Nothing should change here, I wouldn't think. I think you should hit that. And then obviously the department head request is $478,780. And that increase, obviously, like I said, is the merit, their COLA, because our admin services rep, we had a vacancy for a couple months. So that's why, there's a difference there. But And then obviously your retirement, your insurance, all that, is driving all that increase. And then the next slide, sorry, not the next slide, the next page is finance. I'm projecting $327,300 in that, and that is due to, there was a vacancy in my department there for, since January. So, and I just filled it. So there's about a month and a half or two that's in there, so. And that's about all in that. And then my requests, I was informed by the auditor that he's no longer going to be doing our audit service. So I have to go out for an RFP. I really don't know what that number is. John just told me to plug in 30,000. It may be more, it may not, I don't know. I won't know until I gotta get the RFP together.
That was a question I had, while it was $15,000 more.
That's why.
That explains that.
Yep. And then obviously, depending on, the increase in ad valorem, if you look down at your, the very last line, expense tax collection, that's the county, that's who, we pay county for collecting our taxes. So there's a percentage, if, up to 95%, it's 1%. After 95%, they charge you 5% for collection, and this is even if they, collect prior tax. So I don't know if this is even the right number. It may be less, it could be, but until I get with them, I'm just going to plug that number in for right now. And that's about it on that one. Legal is legal. We're leaving it alone. I feel like we're going to come in budget, so anything could happen in that budget, though. So, all right, so here is our public buildings department, and I'm projecting coming in right at budget, just about lacking but $2,000. I do want to mention that if you look at your utilities, that went up a little bit. I'm projecting a little bit more. Again, it's out of our control. That's just something we have to monitor. And if nothing changes, I feel like 75,000 is going to be good for this fiscal year, the request, but it could change.
I heard Duke on the radio the other day is getting ready to go up, rate increase.
It is.
2% or something like that.
So that might change. I'm just, and of course, we did have the director vacancy. Now what I did do, because John is, we are seeking applications for the director position. I did add that salary back in just in case, so we don't, you know what I mean? So I don't have to come to you and say, oh, so that salary from here to the end of the year for a director is in here. It is included. And then let's see. Okay, and then the capital reserve down here, remember that's part of the Public Works capital reserve set aside. What I did was I took that 32.5, I think that's what the number was, and I split it into 5 departments because the equipment is used for all departments. So I just took it and split it in 5. Now, whether the stormwater it's in there, but once I added that, I had to take away from something else in order to stay within that budget. So once John tells me what he wants done, then I figured this was the safest way to do it for right now. All right, the next department is fire. Now, in this department, you had 3 personnel requests. Yep, and if you look down at the bottom of the sheet here, I have some of the debt service and everything here for you if you're wondering who's in that department. Now, I will say that in prior years, the director was 75% in fire and 25% in permitting for fire inspections. But this year, we are just doing 100% in the fire. And then, that way there's no, because remember, we have to, at the end of the year, the annual audit, I have to submit the annual financial report to the LGC, and I have to provide them information of how many, what revenues came in for the permitting, and then they give you a number, and whatever is left or in a deficit, you can't do nothing with it. It can't be used for other, general fund operations. It has to be specifically to permits. So, anyway, so we just did 100%. That's changed in here. Of course, you know, the insurance is going up because just like I had stated, we had some individuals in that department that didn't participate, now are, and obviously the increase, everything's driving from that whole insurance, retirement. And then, we did have to increase uniforms for the new individuals. And then obviously your capital outlay and your capital reserve is what's driving that increase. Any questions on that? All right, your next department is permitting. And again, we do have that vacancy in here, but I did include, because we're seeking applications on the new chief building inspector, so that is included in here, in case we do get someone there. And then we did increase the travel and training, for the director and the, permit tech. There's some type of certification for the permit tech, that we're hoping to send Jackie to. And then obviously just staying up to date with the, state. So making sure we're doing everything we're supposed to. And that's all in that department. And then your planning, obviously, that's Rebecca. And then the only thing driving this up to 202,000 is the land use plan. So I didn't know if you wanted to state anything regarding that.
Just circling back to the discussion earlier, the unknown of the ETJ is a very, very valid reason to be hesitant for a CAMA land use plan update, but if you guys were interested in pursuing it, I did want to make the point that the plan update process is a multi-year process. It could be up to 2 years before the actual document is adopted as our new plan. And whatever consultant we may pick, we can factor the unknown of the ETJ into that process. So I haven't had in-depth discussion with them on what strategies we could use for something like that, but we could potentially maybe have a draft that didn't include the ETJ and maybe a draft that did, or just contingencies to if the ETJ is removed, then I'm sure they have recommendations of how we could navigate that. So while, yes, it's completely valid, I don't want you guys to necessarily completely disregard it just because of that. I think that's something that we could still potentially work through. So I just wanted to make that point.
I got a question about that. So you said, you know, obviously it could be up to a 2-year process.
Mm-hmm.
It's $100,000. Would we allocate that in 2 different years, or how would we pay for
You
that?
can.
So it could feasibly be 50,000 in 1 year and 50,000 on the
Potentially,
next budget.
depending on how the consultants want to handle it, yeah.
A lot of times what they do is they'll do it as they, you know,
As
get
we
through
go.
things. And then you would have like a, you know, balance due. So we can do. Mhm. So
10 years.
with that, yes, but with that said, once you put it in a capital reserve, it could only be used for capital. You can't take it out and use it, but you can change the scope. You can change it to whatever you want, but it has to stay as a capital. Yep. Right. Yeah.
That's
Correct. Right. That's right. So that's really it on that, early on that. Absolutely. All right, so then the next page is your police. And again, proposing 2 police officers. Obviously, their projected 25, 26 is coming under budget, and that's due to their vacancies, obviously. So a lot of police, that's really their savings is vacancies. But we're almost fully staffed for the first time ever that I know of since I've been here. So let's pray that that stays that way. So there, that's your, obviously your 2 new employees, and then again, health insurance, retirement, all that drives that. And then your capital reserve, as you can see, there's a 23,000 to set aside for vehicles. And he's purchasing 2 new cars in this budget too, with loan proceeds.
Just so I'm tracking all the current, what I'm tracking is like perceived shortfalls is 3 firemen, 2 policemen, building inspector, public works director. Right now, you're about 7 or 8 personnel down, right? Total across. I'm just making sure I got that number is accurate. We're operating at a 7% right now with the projections that everybody wants. We'd add 7 personnel.
Well, we're hoping to get the chief building inspector this year. That's right.
In our classification plan.
Yeah,
like
I'm
building
just-
inspector, public works director, I don't think there's 1 police officer
One.
vacancy right now.
So,
And he has 2, but they're going to fill them.
6,
Then you got some new ones that are being asked for on top of what's already been
right.
approved. It's the 3 firefighters, 2 police officers, and 1 rec staff. So there's 6 new requests in the budget.
Yeah. Okay. Tracking.
Okay, so that's all in police. And then you have, the next page is Public Works Streets. Oh, you're right. Oh. Public Services.
Oh, my goodness, you're right.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'll make that change.
Mental block.
Mm-hmm. All right, so, oh, I gotta change down here. All right, so the Public Services Streets. Again, the projected is coming at $320,000, and remember, the difference is that $500,000 of sidewalks that was budgeted in there, is not this year, and it's not being projected, so, because I think there's a lot more work going on before we do all that, but again, that's funded with grant funds, so it's a wash. It doesn't affect anything. Again, there's that capital reserve equipment down at the last line, $8,000. The only thing I did increase, well, we think, is your utilities. As you can see, I'm projecting it to come at $66,000 this year. So I added a little bit more for next year. But that could change. Can stay the same. I'm not sure, but we just did a little increase there. And that's about it on that one.
Before we go too far, can I go back to police? Because we've got like, supplies for gas and oil is like $75,000. It's like double what it was the year. Are you going on vacation, Dwayne?
No, actually, when I budgeted that, that was based on the amount of miles that they drove last year, and then times, I did that as $3.50 a gallon. That's
And
even prior,
yeah.
now it's even more, yeah.
I got you. Yep, makes sense.
And 2 new cars, yeah. And adding 2 more cars as well, yeah.
So everything's going to drive if you get the new employees.
Yeah, because 2 of the cars, the 2 cars.
And you got
that
more
we replaced
people
with
driving,
driving
yeah.
On the road right now, you
Gotcha.
also.
More staff, yep.
We're making it work
Yeah.
right now.
Trying.
All right, and then this is our Powell Bill Streets. And if you're not aware, we do receive state funds, roughly around $126,000, well, just what you see here. And it can only be used for state, what is it, state,
Town,
thank
municipal
you,
roads. yeah.
municipal streets, yes, thank you.
Even though we have a lot of DOT streets in town, we can't spend any federal money on those streets.
Like Main Street extensions or anything like that. Yep.
That's right.
Curbs, sidewalks,
Like Elm Street.
Travis and Broad, those are all.
So again, the revenue offsets this, so it's a wash. And that's all on that one. Nothing we can do with that. And then the next one is Parks and Rec. So we do have, Anna has proposed, or requested, I should say, requested to increase her part-time employees' pay rates. I'll let you talk about your stuff. You want to go ahead and talk about all your special events and stuff?
So with the part-time, I put in for a increase in their pay rates just to get them up to par with surrounding counties, areas, basically to be competitive. Last year, we didn't host summer camp because we weren't competitive. That's one reason we didn't host camp. We interviewed several people, and then when we told them what they were going to make, they declined the position because we weren't competitive. And a lot of our other positions that we had, same thing. As soon as we told them what they were going to make, they've declined the positions, and so we were not able to keep people on or bring people on. So we were just trying to increase the rate to be able to keep people on and bring people on. So it's not much, but it's hopefully it'll make the difference. So and honestly, it's not that much of an increase. If you look at what we've proposed, the difference is only $32.80 from what I'm asking from what we were at last year. And that's just to give them, and that's a $3 increase in the pay rate. So, and I can find that in my budget. If I need to cut other things, I will find it in my budget to be able to make that happen for them. So, and I think it's worth it. I think it'll make them feel worthy and appreciated. So, and then I'm asking to bring on another full-time person. We're just getting so busy, and for us to be able to grow and offer more programming, we need the staff and we need the qualifications to be able to do that. Yeah, starting them at 15 an hour.
And that's competitive with other counties. That's
Yep,
a big raise, though.
yeah. But, I mean, they will only be they won't work more than 20 hours a week. So, and, I mean, I've done done a pay study, and I've done it with towns similar to our size, so it would be competitive, and same size, but then they weren't in our area, and I've also done it to the cities surrounding us. So that way, I mean, because they've always said, well, it's not the same tax rate. They're bigger, they're Emerald, they've got a bigger tax rate. Jacksonville, they have a bigger tax rate. So I've done both. I've done the comparisons to towns our size, and I've done surrounding areas. So I have both of the data to support that. Possibly, we can, but summer camp was we never broke even anyway. It's just, and we can only host 12 kids anyway, because we don't have a large facility to be able to host camp. So, because we have the seniors are in our largest room every day of the week. So we can only host 12 kids a week.
Part-time.
Yes, yeah, they work at festivals anyway.
So, speaking of festivals, how much are we gonna miss out from the Mullet Festival this year? Several thousands of dollars, isn't it, from fees that we're not gonna be collecting? Because we're giving people credit for last year, right? That didn't come.
Yes,
Right, but
so.
then it just rolls,
Yeah, so it was actually, it's this fiscal year that we actually won't be collecting those fees.
Which is the right thing to do, but.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. Currently, they do not get overtime pay. And that's another thing I've asked for, is for them to be able to get overtime pay during the festivals, but they do not receive overtime pay. They receive straight pay. But that would come out of the festival budget, not the Parks and Recreation budget.
Did we have anywhere in there to get you a new car or truck?
that's in the capital.
Capital.
That's in the capital.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I would also give up the new car to be able to get staff. I think my staff is more important than a car.
So obviously, it seemed like, though, when you talked about the reason that you wanted to give them $3 was for the, whatever, the 12 kids or whatever, was there other things that were missed out? I mean, the justification to give them that raise, it sounded like you didn't care about doing what was it you called, the summer camp? I mean, was there other things that we're missing out by not paying these guys the extra $3?
Well, it's just, honestly, it's just to be able to get the caliber of staff. I mean, a lot of times we're not able to keep the staff on, or to be able to get the people with a recreation background, to be able to have them to be able to stay on. We can't keep the people on because they'll go on to other jobs.
Better paying jobs.
Yeah.
So you can get.
I mean, because, in our area, there's not a whole lot of opportunities for recreation jobs. And so when you get somebody with that experience, it's hard to keep them because there's not a lot of opportunities. And so when you find somebody, you want to be able to hold on to them, and it's difficult too.
Work some pretty good long days during the festivals too, I would.
During the
guess.
festivals, you're working 16-hour days, yes.
But I guess that's what more I wanted to hear, because to me, it sounded like the only thing they were doing for us was the camp. And since we're not doing the camp,
No, I mean, and it's programming. I mean, so, and really, like, Sarah needs assistance so right now, with programming. She needs assistance with, we need somebody to be able to step in. If Sarah is sick, somebody needs to be able to step in and be able to run a program just like that.
I don't know how you do it with the number of people that you have with all the, I mean, you got
Yeah.
talent trackers, you got program
Yeah.
after program after
Yeah, and
program
that would
after
be
program.
like the full-time person would be able to basically be a Sarah. So that would be the full-time person. And then the other part-time people, they would be able to step in and run the programs. So we need these people with the experience, either if they're in school, like right now, we're lucky enough to have somebody in school with a recreation. She's in school for recreation. So she's been starting programs and leading programs. So we need those kind of people, that kind of staff to be able to start in our programs, be able to take over and lead the programs. We need more of that. And, because I don't want to step in and run a program. I've done that. I mean, I will do it, but I don't want to do it anymore.
Case in point is like with the police and fire department, when we became competitive with surrounding areas, it was easier, seems like, and the culture that you guys have created as well, but that makes it a lot easier to get you staffed where you want to be staffed.
Yeah.
I would think.
Yeah. I mean, and we want to grow our department. I mean, and so, but my thing is we can only grow so much. I mean, Sarah can only do, one person or two people can only do so many programs where you just get
That's what I'm
burnt,
saying, I don't know how you do all these.
where you just get
programs.
burnt out, yeah. So, yeah.
I guess that's, yeah, anybody else have any comments or anything about?
All right.
I know you guys are the last funded department ever, so, thank you for everything that you do with the budget.
The next one is the downtown facilities. And in this department, there are two items that we budgeted or requested, and that's the $15,000 up top there at the salary part-time for the visitor center. Because the Parks and Rec part-time they actually work the Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at the visitor center. If we're going back to what we were doing prior, which I'm assuming we are after the renovation, we have an employee there Monday through Sunday. And normally it's town staff here at Admin Services. We have one day, we go down there, we remote work, we're still doing the same thing as if we were here. We all have our day, and then Friday, Saturday, and Sunday is the Parks and Rec work down there. So this $15,000 is pretty much for that, for the part-time, okay? And then the capital outlay is that $44,000, which was for, that was for the new Christmas tree, which, by the way, Justin has requested funding from the TDA, I believe $2,000 to help that funding. The floating kayak launch, and obviously the fire department, 50% of that boat launch. So that's the only thing different here. So let me see, I'm projecting 112,000, but I don't know what that number is. It could, but remember, we're doing renovations at the visitor center. So they've already started work down there, so there's going to be a budget amendment. It's going to be coming before you. I just don't know what that number is yet, so just keep that in mind too, okay? You all did allocate, was it 60,000 last year? We've used some of it last year. I want to say the number was like 26,000 remaining. So, and then try to figure out what the TDA is going to do, because they did apply some TDA funding, I think $21,000. And then they applied for the county, $21,000. And then the TDA committed last year $30,000. And so we're hoping that they approve the 21,000 and the 30, which was already committed, so we can get the agreement whenever he.
That 30's already spoken for, though, that's.
It
yeah.
is, it is. So that's why I'm saying it was
Yeah.
committed, so it should stay there.
And then we'll go to the county. Would it help if we went to the county commissioners meeting and made a proposal to them?
We've submitted the grant
Yeah.
application
Already.
to
Mhm.
the county TDA. They just have to engage with it. Make up these provisions.
Okay.
I would think
That, yeah.
We shouldn't, if the county funds us and the Swansboro TDA comes through with 30 plus the additional 21, we won't need any more funding from the town, other than what's left over of that about 26,000. We won't need any additional funding from the town.
Yeah. So that's that one. All right, and then, the next one is festivals and events. Yep, so of course, the increase there is, you can see the part-time, increase a little bit for the, festival and events. And then, Anna, if you want to speak on behalf of your increases in the other.
Well, the increase in the part-time was for my part-time staff getting time and a half, because all the full-time employees get time and a half. And so, my part-time do not get time and a half, and I just felt that I was asking if they could get time and a half as well, just on the festival days, because they work just as hard as the full-time employees, and they also work all year long on the festivals, putting together the festivals, because they do work before, and because we have them work on the festivals and do work for it, and they work just as long hours, if not longer hours, than on the weekends. And so I just was hoping that we could get them time and a half just on the festival days as well. So I think they deserve it. Other than that, most of it stayed the same. We had the July Independence Day went up probably just a little bit because the fireworks are increasing. I think and then my marketing. So the ads and notices, I went up significantly because I've worked really hard and established a lot of partnerships especially with the media. I get a lot of media for free, but I also have worked strong partnerships with TV last year, and so with that, a lot of our pictures and video and all of that media that we need is out of date. Like, our pictures are getting old. I don't have any video, so I've worked out, I've already laid out a campaign for each festival where I can get new footage, new video footage, new photos, and because the TV ads are asking for video, new photos of each festival. So maybe I can only do this like every other year. And so I'm putting together packages where I can do this for each festival and then be able to get that to the media. So, and I'm having two televisions ads, or excuse me, 2 television stations that I'm going to be running ads with for our festivals. And then I'm putting together the media packages. So I have one agency that's going to be doing photo and video for each festivals. And I'll be able to take that package and be able to turn around and give it to the TV stations to be able to use that for television ads. So that's why I've increased about $10,000. I've increased my marketing budget. So, but I've done, I've worked really hard to build those relationships with that. And Channel 9 has been instrumental in working with me, especially with the Mullet Festival. They were key in, when we canceled it, I called them and they immediately stopped the ads and rebuilt the campaign, built all new ads the same day. Next day, got the word out that, and we were going to do the finger mullet like for the next weekend. So, and they gave me about $7,000 in bonus ads. So, so I've got a really good relationship with them, and so we're going to continue that, and we've actually already laid out a good marketing campaign for next year. As long as the funds get approved, we laid out a good campaign. So that's the major increases for the festivals anyway.
All right, and then your next, very last, but not least, the emergency management budget. I guess if you want to talk, just basically the take of.
The only real increases here, because this line item is typically what we group everything in during a disaster, hurricane, snowstorm, just for the ease of FEMA or state reimbursement, being able to track all the expenditures. The capital outlay request this year is for the snow removal equipment and some message board signs. With the uncertainty of FEMA, and the state and everybody asking for resources, they're trying to start weaning people to be self-sufficient. I put the message board signs, which will be accessible to other departments. So we use them for all the events when we're notifying. Public Works can use them. But placing it under EM, it falls under our VFIS insurance. So it's, instead of having to pay the liability for the town, we have a liability blanket for anything that doesn't have a motor or is a support asset that is a easier and more cost-effective way to insure it, to make sure that if it is damaged, but it'll still be accessible. But that's the largest increase is just those capital expenditures.
And again, a lot of, I mean, since I've been here, the emergency management budget is really the only thing that's in there is the WEBIT EOC. Normally, we don't put money in there because if if something arises, the mayor can do that, what is it called? State of emergency. And our purchasing policy says that once that state of emergency is in place, that we can do what we need to do and then come back to do the budget amendment later. So that's why we don't put any funds in here, for stuff like that, because it will come whenever, I mean, we're allowed to do it once you sign that. So, all right, I'm sorry, it wasn't the last department.
I have one. The snow removal equipment. What is that going?
That's actually the biggest expenditure in the capital outlay is the message boards, the mobile message boards like they have. The snow equipment is just the plow. We had a lot of requests and being able to access roadways. So it would be an upfit for actually some of the larger F-250 vehicles.
So more than one.
I believe that's actually just one right now, just so that we could lead an emergency vehicle into whatever neighborhood. The big concern that we got a lot of calls and requests for, neighborhood off of Mount Pleasant, the Villages. Thank you. There's so many of them. But that one was the biggest one, just trying to get to elderly patients during the event, helping out. DOT being stressed thin, we're only focusing on 24. So we would be able to get into those neighborhoods a little bit easier. But yes, to answer your question, it's only one of a full upfit. And those are on the state sheriff's department contract. So they've already been vetted and kind of the lowest bid.
You want to take that
The last two are the enterprise funds, stormwater and solid waste. Stormwater is where we pay for the fee we collect from commercial and residential customers, $60 per residential customer. That's how we fund all our operations. Part of our staff expenses are included. They're 10% of the public works director's salary, and 100% of one of our maintenance technicians is paid out of stormwater and the debt service on the large jetback truck. One thing we haven't had the opportunity to do is or be successful at, is to apply for any stormwater grant projects. But now that we have the stormwater master plan that was just presented to you all at the last board meeting, we have something now that we can go out and have something tangible to show grant funding agencies and can have a whole lot better opportunity to get funded. So any excess funds that we have, if there are excess funds, and there are, that we have a fund balance of stormwater revenue, you could use those for grant matching. So and I think we're going to have some excess funds this year that will roll over into your reserve fund. And now that we have the master plan, what I would like to do for us is to get a little more aggressive on applying for stormwater grants and to use some of these funds to help us match if there is a match requirement, so we don't have to take on any loans or more debt service for these projects. But as you saw, we have a number of stormwater needs out there, and they're really, really expensive. I think the top two were close to $3 million, downtown and Halls Creek, yeah, and the smaller one at Forest Ridge was about
Brook. Forest Brook.
$900,000. So it's very expensive, but I think it'd be a good opportunity for us now that we have, that stormwater project was about $400,000, but it was all grant funded, so we're very fortunate to have it, but let's use it to our advantage. Any questions on stormwater? You want to do solid waste? You want?
All right, last but not least, here is the enterprise fund for the solid waste, and as you can see, as I stated earlier, I'm projecting about a $10,000 deficit here, but may not be. But obviously, I would come to you for a budget amendment if necessary. And then, obviously, the department request, we increased the services, refuse, and the recycling by that 1.9%. And then also the tipping fees, we did the 1.9%. And obviously, there's the 10% of the director's salary and 100% of an employee maintenance tech. So this is what we have right now. That could change. I don't know. I don't think it will, but it will require an increase, a rate increase for this department in order to provide these services. So just wanted to put that out there. That's it.
Tony, can I ask, what's your depreciation expense on this
So
one?
that's for the equipment that's in this department.
Got it.
Because again, this is a enterprise fund. It runs just like a business. So if there's depreciation that gets allocated to this, and if it comes below that line, the LGC is going to be like,
Got you, okay.
So it's sort of a buffer, I should say, for right now, but not really, because at the end of the year, if we don't have enough, if we don't collect enough fees, then the LGC is going to be like, okay, well, we have an issue.
Thanks.
Okay, that was our presentation. Mayor, would you like to go back? Any specific questions you have, ideas, projects, or what we might have described in any of the particular departments or any department heads you want them to fill in on any gaps that, we may have missed? We're glad to take it. our plan now is to go back with, the feedback that we've got today. And again, we're going to take what you told us at the first meeting was for us to prioritize. You saw this list. There was really no priority list here. It was just the whole gambit of everything that everyone wanted to do for next year. So now the challenge is for us to put it in some type of format where it is prioritized, come back to you with a reasonable budget, recommend a tax rate that you think is acceptable, and then we'll just continue to work on it until we come to some type that you're comfortable with, and then we come to the public hearing. There should be no questions. It should be tight. Everybody's in agreement unless something comes up at the last moment that we have missed or we want to add. You can always change your budget after the public hearing. You may learn something up to that point, and then after the public hearing, you can amend it and adopt it after the public hearing if you need to. Do you have lunch? Is that
Have any
about?
comments, questions?
Okay.
Philip, I had two items, Matt. I came with a list of things, and almost everything on my list was covered somewhere. Just two that stuck out for me, and if this is the appropriate place to discuss it, great. If it's not, then so be it. One was on the Parks and Rec. This past year, there was money, obviously, I think, allocated for the pickleball courts. Go ahead.
So what I did is, in your projections, under the Parks and Rec, you'll see that $150,000, I'm going to request to transfer it over to capital reserve. Because according to Anna, she's working on some grants, and it may be 2 years before we find out anything. So I'm going to be bringing it back to you to request to move it from the Parks and Rec to the capital reserve. So it sits in there just like Commissioner Eckendorf has stated, if that's what you want to do. I mean, that's what I did in the.
Just along those lines, some of the thoughts I had, the estimate that was provided a couple weeks ago seemed way out of reach for us as a municipality. And just thinking about the existing features or structures we have out there, the skateboard park, that's sitting there, that's a couple of us have talked about, that's, useless right now. Could we develop a plan to repurpose that for pickleball courts? Because then we wouldn't have new water runoff requirements because it's an existing structure. There's already a fence around it. Again, I'm just spitballing some ideas. Or repurpose it for a new modern skateboard park or something that's better designed, that wouldn't have the maybe insurance liability. Or if we all feel a skateboard park, because of the insurance liability, this is something we should take off the table, then so be it. But it was just an item I wanted to throw out there to kind of gauge the temperature with the commissioners and the staff, and primarily you, and Sonia from an affordability, perspective on doing something with that property, that asset we have. We have a skateboard park that's not being used. Could it be repurposed for pickleball, where I think we could get probably 2 courts at least there, and that would increase their capacity by 50%, but it would probably come at a nominal cost.
New courts versus repurposing.
Sure.
And then, of course, we have the issue of getting the consent for us to repurpose. That's a whole nother regulatory process we're going through. And then, obviously, the stormwater issues that we are maximum built upon with our stormwater, our permits maxed out.
Exactly.
I'll let Anna kind of explain where she is. There's a lot of moving parts right there on.
I'm sorry?
A lot of moving parts on a couple of these projects.
So we can, it won't fit, it will fit 3 pickleball courts, but you still have to add concrete to it. So no matter what we do, we're going to have to add, this is in the skate park. So no matter what we do, we're going to have to add concrete to it. So, it won't fit perfectly or anything, because I've already had people come out and had measured it and so forth. So that was the option 1. And so I thought, honestly, I just thought putting it back there would I thought it would be kind of putting it like a Band-Aid on something, just putting it back there. And so that's when I explored the option of adding the new courts. And so kind of where I'm at now and where I'll be making the presentation to you is to build the 6 new courts, and then is to repurpose that skate park into something. Now, what that's going to be, that's the decision that we'll need to make. But is to take this project, this pickleball project, and actually make it into a huge project, and to make it like make it into like four projects into a massive grant where we can do it in grant with LWCF and PARTF, where we can use to match each other's. So it's going to be a large project, but hopefully it would benefit us much more, meaning that we can get pickleball courts, we can get a tennis court resurfacing, we can get the tot lot in, and then we can maybe get something done with that skate park. All these projects in one, and get the 2 grants done. It's going to be a longer process, but that's something I've already talked to a consultant, and it's something that I've kind of worked on. And it's the beginning of a long process. It's going to be more expensive, but I think maybe it actually would cost the town less. That's if we get the funding. So, and the key is just also trying to figure out what we want to do with the skate park. My concern is, because of where it's located, whatever we put there, I don't want it to look out of place or that we just threw something there to make it look, I don't want it to make it like I said, we just put something there. Because it's kind of like in that back little corner. So, and I don't know if you wanted to do, if you did a skateboard, it's going to have to be concrete, because that's the new laws now, precedents, because of what happened with our park before. Now anything being built has to be concrete. So I don't know if it's even large enough to put anything concrete there. So now is to figure out what we want to do with that area. I've talked with our board. One suggestion was to make it a multi-purpose recreation area, like permanent cornhole boards, bocce area, that sort of thing. My thought is are the basketball courts, they are always busy, is to just maybe expand it and just make 2 basketball courts. I don't know, that's something that we needed to discuss and find out, or maybe I can find something else that's pickleball related, but with a PARTF grant, I have to have 3 recreational components to apply for the grant. So the pickleball course would be 1, the tennis courts would be 2, the tot lot would be 3, or whatever we do with the skate park could be 3 as well. So, and then I would have the extra, whatever we did with the skate park could be a component as well. So, but something to tie in with that. So that's kind of the direction that I'm heading. So it's just finding that key. Now, if anybody has any other thoughts what we could do with the skate park, I'm open to it as well. I just don't know what that is. But whatever we put there, I just don't want it to look like we just threw something there. It needs to be cohesive.
So can we even get insurance coverage on a skate park now with the previous history? I didn't think so.
Yeah.
So, and then this is kind of budget, but not. So then what do we do with that equipment? Because I've talked to a gentleman that would be willing to take it off of our hands and tie it in to something he already owns out in the Pelletier area and repurpose it as a skate park. I don't know if he'd want to buy it or if he'd want a donation, but I know he'd be willing to take it. The grant. And
Property. 2, I think we have to find out whether we would even be permitted
by the grant that we get.
Well, because of the history of the
Yeah.
whether we would need to find out whether we would be allowed to surplus it. A couple questions.
Because he called me a couple of months ago, I guess, a month ago. And he's real interested in taking the equipment. Matter if we can or not.
We can answer those.
And then we'd still have a
Where's Virginia
skate
get-
park in the area, so
Yeah,
it
we
wouldn't
need
be in
to-
Swansboro, but,
Okay, to repurpose it, I think we're still waiting on that.
yeah, on that answer.
Thanks for the details. I mean, appreciate you. I mean, you're obviously taking a very big comprehensive look at it, and certainly I think we all appreciate that. It sounds like, though, it's something that would take a while and is dependent on two different streams of grant funding. So definitely interested in hearing other board members, other, staff members' ideas and so forth, as you noted. I mean, I'll send you something via email, just things that I've thought about as well. But thanks.
Yeah, I'm definitely open to ideas, and timeline is critical, because if we want to move forward, and that's why I'm going to be presenting to you, because if we want to move forward with it, we need to make a decision fairly soon, because LWCF, we need to be started on it in probably like this June. To be able to start on it, because it is, the grant application is due in November, and there's lots of stuff that we need to start on, because I would like to work with a consultant if I'm going to be doing two grants at once, because they can match each other. So, yeah.
Did your board have any suggestions for that skate park?
Yeah, the one, a few months ago, we had discussed putting it as a multi-use area. Doing it with the permanent, like, cornhole boards, maybe some fitness equipment, or cornhole boards, covered area, some other recreational components where it was just, multi-use. And then our last board meeting was a couple of, one member said to stop completely and do community or outreach surveys to see what everybody wanted and that sort of thing, and just to start over.
What about, I've been asking about this for years, and I think it's needed. I think it should be a requirement. I think the park needs security cameras. There have been numerous situations that have occurred over there. I know I approached you a couple times about, I don't think it's happened in a while, some people burning stuff in the backside close to the dog park where nothing can be seen in the tree line. So you got people back there burning stuff that could potentially burn down the park. Got people that are dumping trash on the corners, specifically the people putting the tuna cans out for the dogs and for the cats in the corners. I've had some older people that walk, like walking early in the morning, and they have told me they really don't feel comfortable walking back to their dog because of what they call shady-looking people back there early in the morning. And I know in the past it would help us a couple times with some things that have occurred when we had to utilize, I think, Mr. Freeman's security camera back on facing his property. So I would hope that we would consider that, John, and do something about moving forward.
We do have some cameras in the park. Yeah. Well, we have some inside and outside. Yeah.
Back in the area?
No, not in the wooded areas, no. Yeah. Not in the wooded areas, no.
So I like your idea of the basketball courts personally, because I think we've got things geared to the younger, like tot lot and stuff like that. And then you got stuff geared to the older with pickleball, and you're talking about cornhole. But these guys, their age, I mean, I don't know if basketball or skateboard probably which would appeal more to you guys' age group. You can't skateboard?
No, I can, but I'm better playing basketball.
Yeah, it's more fun probably. Yeah. The basketball courts would be more beneficial to the middle-aged, younger.
Well, if I can, anytime we're over there cutting grass or anything, there's always.
Every time I go out there, even in the daytime.
I mean, and typically you see it like on base at the fitness centers where they have multiple basketball courts, there's a group playing and there's always a group waiting to play. That has the opportunity to shoot, mess around, what have you, that's the next team up, what have you. So having that extra capacity, Bill's point, what was reinforced by Public Works could be another good option.
Emerald Isle's got an indoor basketball court.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that it would look good, and it also, maybe it would give some opportunity for, like if Sarah wanted to do even to do some clinics or some sort of, well, actually, she could build or she could do safety down on it, but, yeah. But, she could do some clinics or something like that too, if she had a bigger courts, yeah. So, and it definitely would look cohesive, so, yeah.
Yeah, along that back trail, there's really nothing back there. Even just a simple little trail cam that you can put up in different places, they're not very expensive, and you can get them with SD cards that you can pull out every day just to check on them. And then some of them that you can actually tie into like our officer's duty phone, that if somebody's back there, then they can go check it out.
I had another one, Chief Taylor, this was for you. Came from your brief, the first budget workshop we had was the speed trailers. I was really impressed with those, the mobile version, the stationary version. They seemed pretty cost-effective, not overly expensive, and I didn't, is that rolled in somewhere, or is it something you're not asking
Yeah, we didn't put
for?
one in on this budget because of the other needs that we had, with the radios and then also some of the other things that we need to replace, but those are definitely things that we're looking at. So. What's that again? Oh, yeah, we can get estimates from you.
I mean, I had from our notes last time, 7 to 8K for a mobile version, 6K for a stationary version.
Yeah, like the ones we have out now, we just got a thing in. You could buy two. They roughly run for $8,000 for two of them, and then you get a third one for free as well.
I mean, I've had comments from people that they enjoy seeing them in town because it makes you just more aware, and I think you brought that up. John, I had just one other item. Was the Emerton School repurposing, renovations, what have you? All that sounds like it's going to get completed, by August of this year? So it sounds like we're done, for lack of better words.
The grant, we have to be complete we have a deadline of August.
Okay.
It's got a couple more things I need to finish to wrap up, so we can put the Historic Association back in there, and we've got some other interested parties that want to look at leasing the other side like we did with One Harbor.
Okay, all right.
How many square feet? I would have to look that one up. I wouldn't want to guess. I will find out. Does.
So I know there's one place that's looking at it, at one side, it's the Historical Association still want to use it for like their quarterly meetings too, I think, aren't they?
Yeah, their desire would be to still be able to use the auditorium side for their quarterly meetings.
For their quarterly.
Right, but we would need to write that into any lease agreement we
With
have
any other
with
group.
them and any other second party that.
I think there's
that
this,
side.
on Monday nights, it probably wouldn't interfere with much of
That would have, because
Be-
I don't know the nights that they would want to use, would a conflict, we just need to make sure we have it in the agreement so there's no misunderstanding. So that would all need to be in a lease agreement. Yep.
Thing is about doing that is, just like we always have, we had to replace his carpet and all this other stuff, so if we do that, we need to increase the damage deposit as well, because that's, yeah.
Tailing off that with the Heritage Center, though, I mean, the recent meetings we've had with the Historical Preservation Commission, is there a way to work into the budget somewhere? I mean, a small amount of money for some sort of public outreach? I think, a couple of us have talked about that. I think there'd be some merit to that, to get the homeowners, to get the contractors, the realtors all together and have an event just to reinforce, what's going on in our historic district, the rules, the regs, the processes, and so forth. I don't think we're talking about a lot of money for something like that.
I have not had any conversation with Amelia or her group about.
Well, it wouldn't be Amelia. I think it's more supporting the historical preservation, the board, the advisory board. Yes.
Okay. Our historic, we have not considered that in, there's no funds in this draft. That was something we'd have to add into. I don't know what kind of funding you're talking about.
I mean, I would, yeah, I mean, $1,000 maybe for what's new in your historic district and, maybe a public outreach event here one night or at a location that the advisory board would recommend, some sort of maybe hour-long program. I think that was something that was discussed when we had our workshop with them, and I certainly would like to support them if we can.
And like newsletters or just like educational workshops for specific things like windows and doors and roofs, or just updating the community on what the ins and out of the historic district is. It wasn't more than a couple thousand, I don't think. Yeah. But that was just for basic stuff like refreshments for events, or like mail postage to send out flyers for events, or postage to send out newsletters, things like that.
It just sounds like it's been a while since we've done an event like that. And by no means I'm saying it needs to be, a $1,500 every year, but it sounds like it would be a good idea, for the.
Yep, that has been, they have requested that the past couple of years. It just didn't make it into the budget.
Make that note. You got it.
1,500?
Well, didn't you have an event a couple of years ago at Emerson School or something where some representatives came from New Bern or somewhere and did a workshop?
The State Historic Preservation Office has hosted a couple, or we have hosted them to run a couple workshops. We haven't done one in this year, but I believe it was either 2024 or 2025 that we had a windows and doors workshop, and then we had a certified local government training where Christy Brantley comes and she talks about an array of different topics.
Is there any charge for that, or?
No, they come and do that for free, yeah. But we need supplies, refreshments, like advertisements, stuff like that, to get the word out for that kind of thing, so.
Only last item I had, John, was, and I think you alluded to earlier, was about grants. I mean, are we going to get an update like on all the grants that we're applying for and what they're for and how much and so forth? Is that something we can get today or at some point in the future in this process?
We do track that. I can get that to you. Yeah, we'll do that at our next budget workshop.
Thanks.
That. Yeah.
That's pretty painless.
That was the easy part.
I know. Now the serious stuff yeah.
Oh, no. Not that bad. if you got any more questions, we could adjourn that, I believe. Lunch is here.
Hmm?
All right, so.
Do I need to get a motion?
Well, what we'll do is, again, like I said, we'll take what we've learned today, and I'll work with the department heads, and we'll prioritize, and try to, work within the revenues that Sonia's identified, so that we can come back to you and with some recommendations next time about where we're headed. All right. Good?
Yep. So with that, we get a motion. Did you have? Wait, Doug's got something.
So,
Mayor,
yeah,
are y'all going to make some comments?
maybe we could do it after lunch and stuff, but maybe coming back to you guys with give us 3 courses of action, one that includes public safety priorities, historical preservation priority, land use plan priority, basically how you see these things stacking up as department heads and your own priorities. But come back to us with, I think by department, at least 2 different codes. How you plan to meet the bottom line number and stuff in your projected requests. Maybe a medium, maybe a high, a medium, and a low impact on the budget, okay? High being, hey, if I got everything I wanted, here's what it would be, and here's how I would use it. Number 2 is, hey, here's what I'm willing to give up, but I'm willing to, or push to another year. And then 3 is obviously things like, I think you need to offer them a bottom line number and your recommendations for them in all 3 categories too. I just think that would be easier for us as a staff to come back, or as a board to come back with, offering us the options and stuff for each department. And since you put the slide together about possible tax revenue and stuff, I think those should be your guiding numbers. Here we are at 35 cents, here we are at 32 cents, here we are.
That's exactly how we do it. Yep.
Yeah. You have 2 numbers there, though. I mean, what splitting it, I'm thinking splitting the difference is probably what I'm thinking. I know. And growing, we have this discussion every year, growing town, growing revenue sources. I mean, there's 3 new retail spots going around 24 as we speak right now and stuff. One of them's been delayed for I don't know how long. But 2 are running full steam ahead right now. I know that. And like I said, some other receipt stuff have come online since last year. So, and I know property values haven't decreased yet. It could change, but I don't see that for this year anyway, for this budget cycle. So it's pretty steady. I'm not asking the world here. I'm just a little bit of math, Could we offer, if we offer a tax cut, how does it impact us in services? And here's how it would impact us. Yeah. Yeah, I understand what you say. I mean, because I'm ready to have this discussion today if you want. But it would require we'd be here for the next probably 6 hours. But I don't know if you guys, I don't think the time was spent.
I guess the only thing I would like to know is, after lunch, if that's before we close, is what do you, as far as the ad valorem, what would you like to see? Like, is it a 1 cent, is it 2 cent, is it 3 cent? It is
Yeah.
early, but just give us somewhat what.
We need to come up with a tax rate for you, right?
Because I have
Yeah.
it for right, so, but that, again, is gonna depend on all the priorities, so.
You've done very well explaining how, like you said, this is with a deficit of $315,000, which is a high deficit. That's, to me, that would be on the high end, because I'm seeing what I'm seeing and knowing what I'm paying. And it's a safe bet. I think that if you keep things the way they are in the projected budget, 35 cents, no problem. The needs to do public safety, request priority, land use plan, and to sit back and get some grant money going for recreations and stuff, and hire a consultant to come in and give us at least 4 options for what that thing usually is. I think those are all doable. Now, can we do this, once again, shuffle some money around, say, hey, like 33 cents, here's what, 30 cents, here's what.
So does each department, you have your priorities of what you'd rather have first, I would think, and we would fund those starting with the number one priority and number two and so forth.
It's just gonna depend on.
Do we know what those are right now, or they had to go back and figure out what they really want? And what they, that's what I'm thinking.
That's the next step.
Just the COAs I'm talking.
But what I hear is you want the capital set aside, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
That's a
Yeah,
must do.
start.
No doubt.
If I may, I mean, to Doug's point, I mean, the rudimentary math that I've done at home, I was thinking like a 2 or 3 cents. So COAs along those lines, I think Doug said 5 cents, and meet in the middle, something like that, I think is another good one to look at. I did some research I've done. It looks like the House is back in session today for the state. The Senate's back on the 6th of April. On 15 April, the House Select Committee is going to have a meeting on property tax reduction and reform. Obviously, a lot of that could drive what we can and can't do, and to ensure what we do is affordable and sustainable. So I think a lot of that will help inform our next meeting, whether that be the end of April, beginning of May, and so forth. But with some options, some realistic options, I think would be, along that 2, 3, 5 cents realm would be good ones to examine.
And the estimate is a rough estimate, of course, they always state that, because now you have that appeals process that could change, so we don't, you have to wait, really.
Well, also Wyatt said last night, Gable said last night he would like to come down and talk to us about it, just in general. And he doesn't really have a feel for the tax problems going on right now, but that is going to be definitely a big topic of discussion. Hopefully we can pin him down on what's going on with that. But he wanted to do that before they go into session.
What you're talking about is the legislation before right now. Tells municipalities you can't
The
do a
cap,
tax.
the cap.
Yeah. That has impact.
On us, yeah.
Yeah. On every.
And of course, the county's talking about a bigger decrease than we could ever afford to do. Their budget's a lot larger than our budget, so they could decrease a lot more than we could be.
Yeah, 1 penny on their tax rate is
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah. All right, so where we at? We're gonna have lunch. Okay. Are we going to adjourn, or have lunch and then come back? I don't have anything else.
That's all we had planned.
Anybody else? Okay. Good, okay, so then, comments from anybody? Jim?
At the end of the day, obviously, everybody's plan here is increased because of different reasons, gas, everything's going up. Majority of us here are pretty fortunate because we have more than one paycheck coming in, or we do pretty well here in the town. Is my concern, and talking with this, is making sure that we assist our residents, not overwhelming them, because not only is property tax going up, but WASA, everything, the insurance goes on that. And I think that's the big concern for me, is trying to keep that dollar in the individual's pocket as much as possible, but still meeting the requirements for the town is going to be tough. So I appreciate what you're doing. I think we'll come up with a consensus to make it right. But, that's the concern that I have, is just make sure that, between the county and the town, that we take a hard look at this and make sure that not overdoing it for the individuals. We do have a lot of people in town that just get by, everything's increasing, got a diesel truck and I'm paying $5.20 a gallon is crazy. So that's my thoughts is trying to look out for our residents as well as make sure we can pay the bills as a town. Thank you.
As a guy that watches his property value increase and my tax bill increase every year, Tim hit it on the head. There's a lot of people watching this today, I think, and I think we did a fine job in defining what some of these terms mean in this budget and kind of like shaping out, hopefully for them, how this process works. But understanding the definitions, I think, is first and foremost, and understanding how you guys shape the budget, understanding how you do projections. I think you did a fine job in communicating that all today to us. And I think we're prepared to move forward once you've got the numbers now that you can hit each department heads with, and then they come back with their final proposals, and I would like to see minimum 2 COAs each department. Okay, here's what I can do at this amount, here's what I can do at this amount. I don't think that's asking too much, based on your projections. So I think it's good work. I think we did a lot of communication here today. I think the board is pretty much in agreement with what the priorities are, public safety wise and stuff. That's things we're enumerated to do to provide that service. And then also quality of life items. And then finally, preserving the legacy of the town and the historical district, I think is a good pursuit stuff. We just got to form it up. I think they owe us, here's a sort of a strategy on what they want to do as far as marketing. The inputs to us as the board, in order how that they plan to utilize whatever money that we do set aside for them. And I think those, if you talk to anybody in town, that would be reasonable, in alignment of where the town's interests are and everything. One's the bottom line. How does it impact them individually? And then how does it help preserve public safety as well as sense of community?
Just one last comment. I appreciate all the rigor that everybody's been putting into this. I know it's not easy. It's hard to quantify the needs and the wants, especially when it gets down to crunching those numbers and so forth. But everyone's voice in here matters, and look forward to continuing to work with you with this process.
Yeah, I don't have anything. I don't envy you guys because there's so many variables with local government, state government and all. But thanks for everything. Thanks for putting together the budget for us. And with that, do I have a motion?
So moved.
To close. Yeah.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Lunchtime.